everyone, it's Sharana from Pay Your Weight, and today I'm going to be reviewing Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist, Season 1, Episode 10, Zoey's Extraordinary Mother. So we saw from last week's episode that Zoey's dad is actually getting worse. It seemed like for the past couple of episodes, he was getting better. Everything was going good. You know, there was a lot of hope, but now we see that he is taking a turn for the worse since the doctor told him in the previous episode that, you know, this is the final stage of his illness, and they should expect him to decline very quickly. So we see that the episode opens up with David, Zoey, and they're with their mom, and they actually end up going to a funeral home to start planning, you know, what the funeral will look like. And so we're introduced to Dale, who is played by Paul Thicke, who is like one of my favorite directors. He is actually an executive producer on the show as well. And so he basically starts going through the motions. And so as they start, you know, going around, he talked about get the deluxe package, or you could do the gold package. I was like, y'all have packages like for funerals? Like, that's what we doing? But you know, the funeral business, they make a lot of money, and you know, unfortunately, this is like the cycle of life. We are born into this world, we get taken out of this world. And so we see that all of this information, all of these questions of choosing caskets, what type of casket you want to get, we see that this creates a sense of overwhelmness for Zoey's mother, but also too for them as well. And we see that she starts singing the song "We Gotta Get Out of This Place" by the Animals, which I love when they have her mom actually do songs. I love when we get to see other people that we necessarily don't normally always see sing actually get to have a song. And so then also too, we also find out from David, his wife, she was like, "No, I want to be cremated." And he was like, "Huh? What?" And so I like that in this episode, because Zoey asks her mom, like, why didn't you and dad plan for this? That a lot of people don't like to think of death. No one wants to think about their time of leaving this earth. But also, too, it really helps you understand that death is a necessary conversation that needs to be had. It's easier to have these conversations during the good times. So when you get to situations like this, you're not shocked or surprised. Or also, too, just because you're so overwhelmed about what is happening now and really having to, you know, struggle with the fact that you are in fact dying, it's kind of hard to have those conversations. And I find this episode so relatable, just because I kind of see one of my friends going through this, especially when you see that her mom is the first of all of her friends to have to deal with a death of a spouse. And it's interesting seeing the parallel between, you know, one of these things that are happening with one of my friends right now, and kind of seeing like you don't know what to do. You don't have anyone to talk to. So I appreciate this episode really showing why you have to have the conversations now before it's ultimately too late. And at this point, you know, their dad really can't make decisions or communicate with them effectively. They're having to keep him sedated more just so he can be a little bit more comfortable. So we see that Zoey ends up running into this. You know, yeah, this is a really great episode for special guest appearances. We have the legendary Bernadette Peters. She goes by Deb on the episode, but we see that Zoey's kind of staring out of the window, and she sees Deb. She's singing "I'm Feeling Good." And so it's like the total opposite of what her mother is going through. This is someone who has actually, you know, gone through the different stages of grief, who's dealt with, you know, dealing with the lost one to the point where now she can kind of help others through this. And so we see that Zoey gets the idea to set her mother up with a she kind of staged a blind friend date with Deb, and then Deb ends up talking to her, and it eases her fears. And she's like, you know, take as much time as you want. This isn't going to be an easy process. Like, there's steps to this, but you can always count on me. And so I thought that that was really cool that she found a friend who she can kind of share, you know, what she's going through as she's watching her husband actually die. And so we see that her mom ends up, you know, she finds a place that she wants to have her and her husband buried. Also too, because Zoey and David, they thought that it would be a good idea for them to kind of make these arrangements without her, because maybe it would have been a little bit easier to take something off her plate. But she was not having it. She was not happy with it. She was like, no, boo-boo, I'm going to pick where my husband goes. And I thought it was really sweet how she chose the spot and to make sure that it's shaded. I thought that was really absolutely cute and adorable. But I love that she really found someone to really share this experience with, and someone who could really help her through this difficult journey. But we have some other issues happening in this episode. So let me talk about Mo. Mo, who looks absolutely fabulous. I love the first wig that Mo had on, but also too, Mo, can I get that leopard jumpsuit? Because that jumpsuit was everything. I was just like, yes, Mo, give me my entire life in this episode. I live for all of Mo's outfits and wigs. So Mo, she's already got her funeral planned. She said that she's going to have 5 performances by herself because she said, who else can upstage me but myself? I was like, you better go ahead, Mo, and know what you want. Then tell them to kick out everybody who isn't crying hard enough. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take notes from you, Mo. But we see that Mo has her own issues right now. So Eddie, who is her boo thing, got a key to the house. However, Mo finds out that Eddie has an opportunity to get this gig that will have him traveling for 8 months on a cruise ship. And this doesn't sit too well with Mo, especially since Eddie didn't think it was important to have the discussion with Mo about it in the first place. So Mo, who is very protective of his feelings, he decides that the best thing to do is to break up with Eddie before Eddie breaks up with him, or before the distance becomes too much for them. So we see that Zoe's kind of like, you know, is there a better way? Like, can you just talk these things out? And then Mo is not having any of it. So Mo has to take Eddie his stuff to his, he has a dance class. He's in the middle of audition, which we see Mandy Moore, who is a choreographer of the show. She's absolutely fantastic choreographer. But also too, she's a producer on Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist as well, in addition to doing the choreography. But we see that Mo ends up singing, I think the song that Mo was actually singing was called Issues by Julia Michaels. So we know that Mo really doesn't want to break up with Eddie. Mo cares very deeply for Eddie. However, this is like his defense mechanism. You know, in order not to get hurt any more than what he already has, he's going to break up with him. Even when Eddie is just like, I don't want to break up. Zoey tries to talk to Mo, and Mo is like, hold up, boo-boo, you ain't gonna tell me to talk to anybody about anything when you sit up here dragging Max along. You basically just ignored the entire situation. I was like, you know what, Mo, thank you for checking her, because I was just like, girl, you be giving everybody advice, but don't know how to take your own advice at the same time. Just saying. But while we're talking about Max, Max went to the 6th floor. He's a manager now. He's actually doing a really good job as a manager. I was like, you know what, Max, can you be my manager? Because I just feel like it would be sunshines and rainbows every single day. And so they get into a bake-off. And so a bake-off is the 4th floor and the 6th floor. They're going against one another to see who can come up with a better program for the chirp watch that they've basically been working on this entire time. So in the midst of all of this, we see that Leaf is having a very hard time. You know, him and Joan was like bumping and grinding, getting it on and stuff. However, Joan kind of nips everything in the bud, like, hey, this relationship is very inappropriate. Like, let's not do this. You know, she kind of brought up, like, Zoey seems to think that you're in love with me. Like, isn't that funny? And then he's like, well, I am. So she kind of deads that. This makes Leaf upset and sad at the same time. So he goes to work for Max, and Max ends up taking him in. And then we find out later in the episode that Leaf actually has been feeding information to Tobin, because we was wondering, like, Tobin, how you getting all this work done so quick? Because you ain't did this much work the whole season. So I was just highly confused. Like, I know you ain't stepping up to be stepping up, but we find out from Joan being on Tobin's computer that Leaf was actually feeding him information. So she goes to meet Leaf on the secret 5th floor that he was meeting Tobin on, and she asked, like, why are you doing this? And he was like, because I want to see you win. And I was like, oh my God, you better want to see your boo win. You better. But we see that she once again, like, hey, we're done. Do not put your job at risk. Like, you can literally get fired for what you did. I don't want to see anything bad happen to you. And so I was just like, look at Joan looking out. But I'm like, girl, just let him go to Anna's team and stay on Anna's team so y'all can have like a relationship with one another. I don't even understand, but it is inappropriate how they kind of got things started. And so this is when Anna and Joan goes to Anna and basically tells her what happened. Is it Anna or Abe? I think it is Anna. And then basically they end up having to call a truce on everything. And they end up singing a song called Get Together by the Youngbloods. But Max, he wasn't having it. He was still mad at Zoey, okay? Max is heated at Zoey. And so we see that when Joan takes Joan takes Zoey to a bar to kind of have a conversation with her. And I thought that this was so cool because so many times, like when you're at work, you really always feel like you're truly disposable. And when you're going through hard times like what Zoey is going through with losing her father, it's a very hard time and you can tend to lose focus at work. You know, stuff like that. Work really just doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things when you have limited time with someone that you love. And so I thought that it was very important and very empowering for her to have a discussion with Zoey and tell her about how she lost her mom and how her mom died while she was working for Google on this project for something that like people don't even remember anymore. And so her really trying to help her understand that you have to always prioritize family, prioritize the people that really mean something to you in life, and work is work. That comes second. Is not that important. And I think that's a very important message that everyone should be saying right now, especially with everything that we've been going through. But also too, I think a lot of people have issues, and this is something I've seen my friends deal with, who are dealing with losing a loved one and their company just doesn't care about them. So I really love that she really wanted to mentor her and help her to understand that it is okay to not give 100% as long as you're communicating that to me and spending time with your family. But they are in a karaoke bar, and who pops up? It's Leaf and Max. And so Leaf goes up on stage. She starts singing this totally depressive. What was the song that Leaf was singing? Let me find out. He was singing, I can't even remember. I can't remember, y'all, but I guess I have to figure this out one way or another. But he ends up singing this sad song to Joan, which makes her uncomfortable, so they end up leaving. But before that, Zoey sees Max in like Zoey's world, not like in the real karaoke world. Max is singing "Baby Bye Bye Bye." I was like, Max, you is mad, like you mad, like you done with her. I was like, wow, like I'm happy for you sticking up for yourself. But I was just like, I still have a little soft spot hoping for like Zoey and Max, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. But we do see that there ends up being some type of resolution towards the end of the episode where, you know, they're kind of just like, we might not be able to get back to where we used to be just because, you know, with these revelations and these truths that have come out, but we can work on that. Like we can try to get to a better place. And so I'm happy that they made up. However, at the end of the episode, we see that Max gets fired by Anna because he let Leaf come on the team and didn't realize that Leaf was feeding information to Tobin. So she fires him. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Girl, I was rooting for you because I love you. I love Renee, you know, I'm just saying. But her character is just, oh, she disrespectful. But we do get a little bit closer on the forefront with Simon and Zoey. So Simon broke up with his fiance at the end of last week's, was it last week's episode or the episode before that? Am I mixing up these episodes? I think I did mix up these episodes. Oh, well, it happens. I guess that's it. Man, I mixed up 2 of the episodes. But you know what? I think I missed last week's episode and I watched that beforehand. But I think that's pretty much all that happened in the episode. Okay, I did pretty dang on good. So overall for this episode, I thought it was really cool. Them exploring grief and what it feels like to gradually lose someone, feeling as though that you don't have control of time, or as her mom said, we thought we had all the time in the world to kind of prepare these things. And I think episodes like this is so interesting because even though we have our fun moments where they make us smile and they make us laugh, they still find a way to interject things that are very relatable to what's happening right now, or things that can be happening to people like in their own personal lives. And so that's why I really enjoy Zoey's like extraordinary playlist, just because I feel like I get all of my songs and I get my life for a moment, but it also kind of brings me back to real life, and it gives us some good nuggets, some good lessons that we should really incorporate into our actual real lives. You see how television becomes real life? Yes. So those are pretty much my thoughts on Zoey's extraordinary playlist. As always, my name is Sharona from Pay Your Weights, and if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure you hit the notification bell. And I love you guys 3000. I'll see you soon.